Hey, parenting through family court. Hey guys, hey friends, it's Margie Fitzgerald, LCSW, author of the Nightmare on Hostage Hills books, which you guys should really read to try and learn some of these tactics that I'm going to be talking about. So, and I can help you with that, one-on-one coaching, get in the school group, read Nightmare. The case of Nightmare on Hostage Hills is really the one I wrote for practitioners, but it's will help you to get 2 steps ahead in navigating a family court situation with a narcissist. And today, what I wanted to talk about, there's a number of, I'm thinking of 10 topics. So today we're going to talk about the impact on the children. And one of the things that happens, it's called adverse childhood experiences. ACEs for short. It's actually, pretty understood in the mental health field as a result of trauma in childhood. And they can show up in the children in different ways, and oftentimes people think, oh, well, he's doing so well in school. He doesn't want to be with his mother, but he's doing well in every other area of life. You have to dig deeper with that because that is a defense mechanism and part of the child's way of managing the narrative and hatred for their mother that the narcissist batterer father in this case is brainwashing them into, battering them into, using aversive conditioning, almost like if you were to train a dog. It sounds terrible and it is terrible, but it's the same way. Like the ACEs are a result of the abuse and battering, aversive conditioning that the abuser parent uses. Sometimes they'll get in the face of the child when they ask for their mom. And now this sometimes can be switched, the mom can be the narcissist, but in this case, what I'm describing, and in Nightmare on Hostage Hills, it's the father. They can get into the child's face. They can, when they come home from a visit from being with their mom, the dad will shame them, use the silent treatment, treat them differently. The silent treatment is incredibly dehumanizing, especially to a child. And so how does that manifest in a child's life? Sometimes they get really quiet. They get really quiet because it's subversive control, really, of them, of their authentic expression of wanting to love on their mom and be happy, joyous, and free in their childhood selves. Sometimes it will show up as medical, issues, stomach aches, headaches. They want to run away if forced to see the mother, the behavioral signs of that, anxiety. And in Nightmare on Hostage Hills, what you'll see is, the daughter, who was the oldest in that case, she was getting stomach aches and headaches. And right towards the end of the 6-year custody massacre that family went through, right when she was supposed to have reconciliation with her mother, she started getting headaches and stomach aches, and to the point of where she was having numerous absences at school. And the assistant principal actually wrote to the non-custodial parent, the mother, just asking what was going on, saying that that her daughter Jade would have to have a medical, documentation in order if she had any more absences. So sadly, these kids get sick. Sometimes it is demonstrably with these physical illnesses. Sometimes it's just them getting quiet. Sometimes it's the way that they then are programmed and brainwashed to treat their mother. For example, in Nightmare and Hostage Hills, they stopped calling their mother mom, started calling her by her first name. Also, what happened during the reunification or during the custody evaluation process was the middle son, who was trying his hardest to stay connected with his mom, And actually, he never did call his mom by her first name. The other two did, the younger and the older one. But what the middle son was doing, he was performing the role of the messenger. So the father had him inquiring of the mother and saying in adult language, it's called parroting, really. Parroting, Parroting, the father's adult language. Mom, why don't you just sign over the farm? So they would use adult language that is not characteristic of a 10-year-old. Another example of the impact on children is the youngest child. In that particular case, in Nightmare on Hostage Hills, he actually was documented false memories of hatred created in him for his mother. Should have been a red flag for the evaluator to stop the case and remove the children from the father's care, but he didn't. He actually colluded in the severance of the children from their mother with a goodbye session recommendation. So, we can't change the system, but once again, let's get back to that topic of the impact on the kids. So when the process of the brainwashing and programming is daunting to witness. And how do we intervene? How do we stop that? Well, the parenting response really is just to love on them, let them have their time when they come to you during a visit, and they may have to decompress because they've really had their authentic expression, their own personal expression, suppressed in order to survive the attacks, verbal, physical, oftentimes emotional, spiritual, that they have had to endure at the hands of the narcissist father, the batterer. Now, this is considered battering. So really, there shouldn't be any talk of a parenting plan. If you actually assess these cases properly, the kids and the mother, there is a DSM diagnosis for spousal abuse, for child abuse, child psychological abuse, suspected child psychological abuse, which would then go on to what I see as a step down process that really needs to be used in these DV cases disguised as high conflict. So another impact of the children is, in order to continue to survive. Now, these are the severe, malignant narcissists that do this to the kids, is just to really be that unconditional, loving parent. I'm sorry you're feeling that way, and really have good support as you're going through this, that they know that you are their safe place. And when kids have the safe place, even kids that don't go through this, they come home from school, they're tired, they're hungry, they may have a meltdown. And, some of that around 10, 11, 12 is normal. And, maybe that's more so for girls than for boys. But the impact on children, ACEs, the adverse experiences are very real. And documenting them, oftentimes, like I said in the beginning, that stomach aches, headaches, anxiety, especially when they have to have a visit with a loving parent for whom they've been told over and over, is a scary parent, is an unsafe parent. And oftentimes these kids will get to the point, and this happens very rapidly, on a matter of weeks, depending how young the child is. In Nightmare on Hostage Hills, the youngest son was only 8. And the father had put him in front of the movie The Exorcist one night, as reported by the middle son. And the father left the room, went to bed, and left that youngest son in front of the movie The Exorcist. So the fear, the cruelty, and the evil that's perpetrated against these kids, they've really had to go deep down. So to be able, as a parent, the loving parent, to be that safe place, to let them process through, really having acceptance for them, for where they are. Now, of course, if there's any any concerns of abuse or harm from themselves or you or somebody else, you have to report that. But that's just really important to be aware of the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. And I really encourage you guys to share about these things with one another. In my group, Q&A calls, ask, report. Let's talk about these things where it depends where the kids are in the process of the custody court, the court hearings, etc., etc. Now, the battering narcissist parent will often use them. I mean, he's using them as weapons in the whole case. Will delay, will cancel hearings, bring the kids on their last fun day of school when they were supposed to have a field day, say, oh, mom's dragging us to court, making it all her fault. So the adverse childhood experiences, the impact on children of this narcissistic abuse is profound. And it's really, as parents, our job really to get support for ourselves so we can remain emotionally grounded, have the support of others, which is why I created this school group, for you guys to bounce, your feelings off of each other, get a one-on-one coaching so we can process your individual experiences and cases with me, so we can stay 2 steps ahead, knowing how to document properly. So I'm going to put the link below. I want you to get access to me and my group now, because this brainwashing and abuse of children during these cases, it really happens very rapidly. All right, peace. I'll put the link below. Please like, subscribe, and share this with anyone that you may feel it may be helpful for. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Blessings. God bless you. Pray for the kids.